All right. So actually, we're going to wait for Sarah because I know Sarah was in the same spot as I was.
Okay.
I'm going to be the wanderer right now so I can go get my notes. All right. Okay. So we'll go ahead and call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting for Thursday, May 14th. We'll start with a roll call. Vice President Posadi.
Here.
Clerk Kirby Gonzalez. I think she's still making her way over. Trustee Wong. There she is. Trustee Akala.
Here.
And Clerk Kirby Gonzalez. Just saw you joined
Here.
us. Perfect. And
Yeah.
I am here. Excellent. Okay. Announcements of items to be discussed in closed section. E1 Government Code Section 549.957.6 Conference with labor negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and management. Okay. I do have two public comments, but they are not regarding any of our closed session items. Superintendent, I don't know if you've received, or Ruth, if you guys have received any comments in regards to closed session items.
President Jackson, we have no public comments for closed session.
Perfect. Then with that, we will move over and go into a closed session at this time. We'll see everybody over in the next area. Thank you.
And those who are not going to close session, I will leave this meeting open. The recording will continue, and when the board and superintendent return, the meeting will open again in this meeting. So you're welcome to stay here. I will not leave this meeting. Just to let everyone know, the board and superintendent are in closed session. This meeting, the regular board meeting, open session will stay recording. Once they come back on, then this meeting will continue. If you'd like to stay on the line, you're welcome to do so. We ask that you just mute your microphones on your phones. And if you'd like to leave a public comment, please let me know and I'll make sure that your name is called when it's time for public comment. Thank you.
Hi, this is Dr. Dante Early West. I would like to make a public comment.
Hi, could you tell me your name again? Is it Dante West?
Yes, it's Dr. Dante Early West.
Okay, Dr. Dante Early West. And then just to let you know, we received 2 public comments ahead of you. So you will be the 3rd public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so just remain on the line. And when we get to the public comment portion, we will basically make sure that you're still on the line and call you by name.
That sounds good. I'll mute myself now.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, if you're just joining, this is the regular scheduled board meeting for the Washington Unified School District. The board members are in closed session. So if you would like, you're welcome to stay on the call. They'll probably be back in about 20 minutes. And then the open session, the rest of the meeting will continue. If you'd like to leave a public comment, please let me know and I'll write your name down. Thank you. Hi, sorry, didn't catch that. Is there somebody who wants to leave a public comment? Okay, if anybody on the call wants to leave a public comment, just let me know your name and I'll make sure you get called when the regular board meeting open session reconvenes. Thank you. Hello, I just wanted to come on and say it's about 10 to 15 minutes more until closed session is scheduled to be over. That doesn't mean that it'll end right at that point, but just to let you know, maybe about 10, 15 more minutes. If you are here on a cell phone, please mute your phone just because it causes a lot of background and static during the meeting. And also, if you'd like to leave a public comment, please let me know and I will add your name to the list. And if you have any questions, just ask for Ruth. Thank you. Hello, I just want to make sure that everyone is on here. This is the regular scheduled board meeting for the Washington Unified School District. If you'd like to leave a public comment, let me know and I will add your name to the list. If you have any other questions, just ask for Ruth. Thank you. The board and superintendent should be joining the meeting shortly. Hello, welcome to the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Washington Unified School District. If you are on a cell phone, please mute your phone. It causes a lot of static and it's hard for us to hear. If you'd like to leave a public comment, please let me know and I will add you into the public comments. My name is Ruth. Just ask for Ruth. Again, if you could please mute your microphones. The meeting is about to start and it's hard to hear static on the line. Thank you so much.
Okay.
President Jackson, are you in the meeting?
Yeah, I'm here. I had to get my computer ready. My computer was about to die.
Oh, okay. Okay. No worries.
So I will be ready in about 2 seconds. Okay. All righty. Okay, so we can go ahead and reconvene our open session. We'll go ahead and start off again with roll call. Vice President Pizzotti. Clerk Kirby Gonzalez.
Here, sorry.
That's okay. Clerk Kirby Gonzalez.
Here.
Trustee Wong.
Present.
Trustee Akala. Where'd she go? I imagine that she's probably will be joining us here shortly. And then I am here. Announcements of action taken in closed session. E1, Government Code, Section 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and Management. The board discussed, information received. So with that, we'll move down to I, approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda for today?
President Jackson,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Superintendent Luna. I understand that we have a change in the classified HR recommendations. It's corrected. There's no additional changes to the actual positions or people. It is the funding that needs to be changed of an outreach specialist under grant funding, not general funding.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, there's my camera. Hey, here I am. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
So moved by
Second.
Vice President Pizzotti, seconded by Trustee Akala. There she is. Since, again, all of our votes, since we're virtual, need to be roll call votes. Vice President Pizzotti?
Yes.
Clerk Kirby Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Wong?
Aye.
Trustee Akala?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Tonight's agenda is approved with the one funding change to the human resources component. J, association reports. J1, WSTA report. Mr. Buse, are you on the line?
And President Jackson, we did not receive a written comment.
Nor did I. Okay. J2, CSEA. We have anyone from CSEA on the line?
And we did not receive a written comment.
Nor did I. Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and move over to public comment. I know we have 3 public comments, I believe, that have been received. I know I received 2, and I believe Superintendent Linda, you and Ruth also received some as well. Ruth is going to go ahead and read those public comments for us tonight.
Hello, this is Ruth. One of the comments is for the consent agenda, so we'll wait on that. The first public comment is going to be from Pat Flint, and it was received in an email, so I will read the email now. Concerns. The governor's revised does not look good for districts. $19 billion impact to public education, 10% cut to LCFF, Prop 98 guarantee reserved for K through 14 education with $524 million available, is being pulled this year to pay the state deficit, deferring $5.8 billion into payments to schools over the next 14 months. What are Washington Unified School District plans to address these shortfalls? Free and reduced lunches may increase. Families are struggling. Social distancing. Double sessions? Question mark. I have not seen anything on the past agendas and nothing on this agenda. This is not committee work. These are serious board discussions that need to be agendized and discussed very soon. You as a board need to give direction and concerns to staff to allow them to advise you of the severity and impacts to you to make the decisions for students in our district. I realize the budget just came out today. This is when a quote unquote special meeting open to the public is in order. I understand that virtual meetings are difficult, but parents need to have some clarity on what the district may be looking at for the upcoming school year. Thank you, Pat Flint. The next public comment is from Dr. Dante Early West, and she is on the phone.
Hi, thank you, Ruth. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So as you know, my name is Dr. Dante Early West, and I'm on the phone to make a comment and request about the process of distance learning for fall 2020 and getting feedback from parents. And so it sounds like very much like what Pat Flynn was already asking for. In looking over your agenda today, I tried to figure out where best my comment would fit, and I realized that nowhere on your agenda was the topic of distance learning or plans for next year. I'm positive that you guys are working and currently dealing with figuring out what next year might look like, and that's why it's not on your agenda. However, this gets at my first request, which is I would like the board to consider having plans for distance learning on every agenda moving forward so that parents and youth can be involved in every step of the process. I think more than ever, we as parents are your partners in teaching and learning, and therefore more than ever, it's critical that you involve us in the planning process early and often. I would propose that you do this by allowing for public comments on the plan, so not just once, but multiple times throughout the process. So not just releasing the plan, taking public comment, and then moving on, but again, allowing multiple times for public comments. I would also suggest that you gather feedback through a survey. And lastly, I would request that you host a virtual town hall in which you can take comments on there. So multiple processes and ways of gathering information from parents to figure out what's working, what's not working as we move into next year so that you can, again, implement those feedback into the plan. I would also request that if we continue any version of distance learning in the fall, that the board provide additional guidelines to schools so that there are not stark differences across your district in the way that students are being instructed. For instance, in the use of Zoom, my daughter's dual immersion program has no interactive component, meaning no two-way communication between her and her teacher. I have hired a Spanish tutor for my daughter, and I host weekly Zoom calls for some of her classmates so that they can have a chance to practice their Spanish and interact with one another and see each other, again, because young kids need that. We, meaning myself and other parents, pay for this out of our own pocket because this is not a resource currently available through her school. Again, because this was not something we planned for distance learning. This is the kind of feedback that you need to receive from parents so that the district will be able to better meet the distance learning needs of children and families across all of West Sacramento. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. I don't know if there are any other public comments. If anybody else is making a public comment, can you please let me know your name? Okay, so we have one additional comment at the consent portion of the agenda prior to voting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move over to information and discussion items. L1, grade 6 through 8 science curriculum, Amplify. Director Morsich.
Thank you. Yes, and we do have a presentation to present Ruth, I was wondering if you could get that up on the screen, please. It's not visible on my screen. Is it visible on your screen? I have a some slides.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see
Yeah,
it.
it is, Mr. Moisich. We can see the presentation.
Okay, okay. For some reason, it didn't come up on mine, so I will bring it up on my computer and go from there. Okay, so tonight we're going to we're talking about Amplify. That is the science curriculum for grades 6-8 that our teachers have chosen to adopt for next school year for 8 years. Just for information point, this is our first science adoption for grades 6-8 since 2007 as a point of reference. We'll go to the next slide. And so our big goals tonight are just to kind of show you the process, give you a little link into the process of what our teachers went through to make this choice. And of course, we're trying to come to a common understanding of our unique needs of a district. And we want to give you a clear picture of some of the pros and cons of this material. And again, we want to select the best instructional materials that address the instructional shifts that come with next generation science standards, NGSS. So let's go look at the timeline now of how this choice was made, which is in slide 3. So this whole process actually began last school year in the spring, and during the professional learning time in February, our teachers worked together and they created a rubric to make this choice so that we could have a curriculum that is linked to NGSS. So they scored the different curriculums using this rubric at a publisher fair in cooperation with Yolo County Office of Education. They ended up picking 4 choices based on this rubric and then scored them. So after that, they created a recommendation, which they presented early in the fall, and they decided to pilot 2 different curriculums. One was Amplify, which we're talking about tonight, which was eventually chosen, and the other was Green Ninja. So to make a clear choice, our teachers began piloting, and they piloted Green Ninja first in the fall, and then in starting late fall and early winter, they began to pilot Amplify. The pilot was at every single school site, although not every teacher participated. There was a teacher from every grade level at every school site in Washington Unified School District that participated. And then they got together as teachers and they made a choice using their rubric of which company would work best for Washington Unified School District, and that became Amplify. On May 5th, we took Amplify to the Curriculum Council and presented this process, and it was approved to be brought forward to the board. So just a little bit about Amplify in slide 4. Again, this was piloted during the 3rd quarter of this school year. It's a discovery-based program, and what that kind of means is Amplify is very much into a problem-based strategy in working with students. So things are usually set up around a problem of practice, and then the students cooperate and collaborate to come to investigate on a hands-on basis to kind of get a better understanding of the phenomena. So it is an online program, so it's heavily reliant on digital content, unlike previous adoptions that we work with in this grade level for science. So that's a big change, is this is much more of an online program. Now, some of the things that the teachers liked about Amplify on slide 5, you can see, they liked that there were more features for students to, read aloud, the graphic organizers. They thought the material was far more robust in compared to what they were using. Lots of engaging scenarios. And they try to have the students role play as scientists. So that goes with that problem of practice type of approach and investigative. And then in the end, the students have to apply that knowledge to a unique scenario. Lots of opportunities for ELA integration. So students are definitely writing all the time when they're doing this. And there's lots of opportunities and practice for students to analyze data. On the next slide, these are some things that we're still kind of working through. We wanted to make sure to share with you some of the concerns that we also had while we were working with this. Some of our teachers felt that the material was very repetitive and that things came up over and over again. And part of that is instructional practice and spiraling, but some of our folks felt like that was a little overly repetitive. Assessments was an interesting thought. There was some of our teachers felt that the program didn't do a good job of measuring with the California Science Test, but we also found out that we didn't quite take advantage of a performance task item bank that we could have taken advantage of. So that was something that kind of came out at Curriculum Council right before there, that we had some things we could have taken advantage of. So we're still looking into that to see if there's a better marriage there. Some of our teachers felt like the storylines were rigged, and that could make the program feel a little scripted. Scenarios are not local. And there were some teachers that felt it was very rigorous, and that concerned some of our teachers at certain spots, certain sites, that maybe it would be too rigorous. So that was something that was discussed. But we think that we can address a lot of that through training, which would be scheduled this summer, so that our teachers would have plenty of planning time before the new school year. One of the other considerations that was brought up was technology. So just so you know, our IT department is collaborating with the Amplify IT department, and that is to make sure our devices have all the recommended specifications for hardware and the network requirements that go with that. So those are some things that we're still working with, and they were presented, so we wanted you to know about those things as well. And that is it for these slides. I believe the board was given some slides from Amplify as well to go with this, and I believe that there is a public hearing scheduled for this item as well.
Director Morses, I have one question for you, and I don't know why this didn't come to my mind during Curriculum Council, but did how was the process affected by the school closures with COVID-19? Was that process by any chance cut short? Or
no, fortunately, this decision to use Amplify was made before the school closure actually took place by the teachers.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Trustee Wong.
Oh, no, I'm just unmuting to unmute.
Oh.
I'm interested to hear more, President Jackson, and I don't know, Trustee Gonzalez, what was the discussion like in the Curriculum Council?
Well, during the Curriculum Council, the discussion was it was pretty good. I mean, the teachers that presented and discussed the two programs made it very clear, and Stan, correct me if I'm wrong, they were wholeheartedly behind this, the Amplify program. It sounds like to me, I got the impression that they pretty much dismissed the Green Ninja program fairly quickly in the process, and were pretty sold on the Amplify, and felt that that was the one that best suited the needs of our district. The one concern that I did have is that I had a question as to whether or not we were being this appeared to be a very technology based program. And Marco, you please hop in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I had some questions about this. Is that, well, if our technology was on par to be able to help run the program effectively, so that once this is adopted, that our teachers are able to use the program to the best of their ability and be as successful as they possibly can with it. And I believe the answer was yes, especially considering the number of computers that we have to replace this year. There are some consumables that are a part of this program, but my understanding is correct that a lot of the consumables aren't overly expensive, and they are going to be providing us with some of the consumables for a year or two. Is that right, Director Morses?
Yeah, so basically just on two parts there. So we're still looking through the technology specifications to make sure that we have everything we need in as we make our new order to match up with not only this adoption, but over the course of the next few years, there'll be other adoptions that are due. And there is more and more reliance on online platforms and programs. And so we're definitely going to make sure that before we bring it to you for action, that we've looked through that thoroughly. So that's still ongoing to make sure. As far as the consumables go, just so you know, we do get a year's worth of consumables that come with the program. However, all of those hard copy materials are available to us by PDF, which means that we don't have to buy those consumables year after year. We can have a set on hand and use those, but we also can get the same thing via PDF, so copies can be made when teachers decide that they do want to do something hard copy with their students. By not getting consumables every year, it saves over $200,000 in this adoption.
I have President Jackson.
Yes.
I want to apologize. I just looked up the Curriculum Council and I realized it was a virtual meeting that happened and I missed it. So I apologize for that. I'm currently actually in Auburn dealing with my father's estate. So I apologize for missing that. I'm sorry. So, and I think that the comment made about some of the criticism, and I trust our teachers who vetted this, but it being a little bit tedious. I've seen this program and I would agree with that. And I always have concerns with too much computer-based programs when there's too much time that they're reliant on the computer. And so I support what they're bringing forward, but I just want to remind everyone that it is a tool and that the teachers can adapt it and tweak it. And as that professional development comes up, I hope the focus is on how it's a tool, not page 3, do this. You know, some of the curriculum, sometimes they come forward and they teach you step by step how to do it with fidelity versus how to really use this. And if you see it's too tedious for your students, how to engage it or modify it, I think is really important, especially given that came up in some of their criticism. So thank you again. And thank you, President Jackson, for the Curriculum Council and covering that. I apologize.
No worries.
And just to value add on your point,
Thank you.
One of the big difficulties has been without having a set curriculum, you do have a lot of gaps. And so through the PLT process, we're hoping our teachers will work together to develop the best practices. So it's not about following the pages, like you said, but working together as a group. Now that they have something consistent, they can do that. And that's one of the benefits of having an adoption that's, you know, a brand new one that's set with that matches NGSS.
Yeah, like I said, it sounded to me like like that was the one that they felt most comfortable with, and seemed fairly quickly in the process. So, any other questions about the Amplified science curriculum? Okay, all right. Thank you, Director Morsich.
Oh, thank you.
Great. So M, public hearing. At this time, we will open for a public hearing on M1, developer fee increase on residential.
Muted for a second. I didn't hear the rest of that.
Yeah, sorry, the sound cut out. I lost it for a second. This is Chris Benitez, and we have a couple of items about residential developer fees on the agenda this evening. This is the first one, M1, and this is a public hearing to entertain any questions about a developer fee increase. And the education code is outlined in the agenda this evening, and the actual increases are in the resolution section. And you can see that we conducted a study. Every 2 years, they consider the developer fees and whether a study can generate additional fees for a district. These are fees charged when people pull permits, developers for residential and commercial space, and per square footage, assess a fee that goes to the district to accommodate their development and the impacts that those developments have on the school district. And so the study illustrates a needed change. The current residential per square foot assessment is $3.79. The new proposed one is $4.08 for a change of 29 cents per square foot. For commercial, the current is 61 cents per square foot. The proposed is 66 cents per square foot, a change of 5 cents per square foot. If the board adopts the resolution this evening and approves, this is sent to the city, and 60 days after receipt, the new fees go into place, and those fees will, of course, be collected when folks are drawing permits, and then the fees are transferred to the school district.
So is it correct then that that would only apply to any new permits that are pulled after this is approved? It wouldn't necessarily apply to permits that have been pulled whereas construction has not started yet?
That's correct. So typically a school district every 2 or 3 years, when the developer board meets statewide, can do a study and see whether an increase is justified. The increase only applies 60 days after the city receives the notification. So if the trustees this evening approve the resolution, we'll get it signed and we'll get it sent over to the city, and then they will implement it 60 days after they receive that. We did have a developer, since they saw that the increases were coming this spring. That was the large developer payment made last year. They requested to pay it in advance so that they could avoid any potential increase. And that, of course, helped us with our debt repayment. So we approved that last year. But every 2 years, approximately, the fee study comes up. We completed it, and it does show the need for an increase in fees.
Okay. Now, is just like, is there a reason why can you explain why is the fee for commercial so much less than the fee for residential?
Because the developer fees are specifically attached to the number of students generated by the development. And so commercial development has much less of an impact. It does have an impact in that it encourages people to live closer by in the community, but the impact is much less. So the developer fee is directly tied to the number of students generated by the type of development.
Okay. Vice President Posadi?
Yeah, I was just wondering, since this is a public hearing, is there anybody here to make a public comment on that? No?
We did not have any public comments for this or for any of the things on the public hearing for tonight.
Okay, and then I guess I'm just kind of curious, Chris. Then have you looked at how many permits are being pulled, ahead of this increase, or have you seen anything that says that there's going to be any more?
No, we actually only had one request. It was from a significant development that's going in. It's the 400 unit multifamily that's going in the northern portion of the district. Right. It's the eastern portion of the Rivers development. Right. And they requested last year because they were looking at the timetable, and they were the only ones that made a request to pay in advance. And we thought it was good to help us offset some of our payments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions in regards to M1? All right. And if there are no public comments for M1, we will go ahead and open public hearing for M2 for grade 6 through 8 curriculum, Amplify. Hearing and information presentation. Didn't we just do that?
This is the official hearing. It was information first, and now it's the hearing.
Yes,
Gotcha.
thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, here we go. Nothing?
No comments?
No comments?
Okay.
All right. Then actually with that, Ruth, I believe we have one comment for our consent agenda tonight. Is that correct?
Yes. The public comment for the consent agenda is from Danny Langford, and I'm going to read it completely now, but it's for 2 items, N4 and N9. The public comments came in an email. It says, please read these comments into the record as well as attached to the minutes for the following agenda items. While I realize some of my questions may be answered during the presentations for each item, I'm hoping that if they are not, that staff will answer them with this request. N4, Green Light Program for YOLO and Westfield. I'm a bit confused on the wording about this program is for both YOLO and Westfield when it doesn't explain anything about what it will provide for Westfield and what age group / grades it will be for, as it sounds like a program for junior high school age students. Also, when you have been pushing for equity, in quotation marks, at all schools in the district, why then is it only being offered for those two school sites? N9, ratification of contracts. Regarding the J-Web consulting contract that have been working with our teachers for 3 years now, why is there no one within our school district that can teach this, as I thought the idea was to, quote, build our capacity from within, end of quote. I'm sure there has to be a teacher that has been trained from the beginning and has been using this for the last 3 years that can teach it without paying yet another outside consultant. Thank you, Danny Langford. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, President Jackson.
You're on mute.
My fault. Thought I had taken myself off mute. All right. Okay. With that, do we have any change? We don't have any changes for the consent agenda tonight, do we?
Nope.
With that, do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I move.
Moved by President Wong, seconded by Vice President Pizzotti. Okay, again, all our votes are roll call votes. Vice President Pizzotti?
Aye.
Clerk Kirby Gonzalez?
Aye.
Trustee Wong?
Aye.
Trustee Akala?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Okay. We'll move over to O for action items. Oops.
Oops, sorry.
Adoption of resolution number 1920-15, development free increase on residential, commercial, and industrial developments.
Thank you, President Jackson and trustees. So this is the actual adoption of the resolution on the item that we just had a public hearing about, and the attachments include the actual fee study and the language of the resolution, which I apologize, it's lengthy, but it's required. And it just states in the item the current per square foot charges for residential and commercial permits for development, and the new ones, and the difference or the change in that per square foot charge as stated previously. If there aren't any further questions, we do need the resolution read and roll call voted on.
Chris, I do not have the
Let me see if I've got it.
Yeah, I don't have it. Do you have it, Colby? And I can't.
I can read it if you'd like me to.
Sure, if you could do that for me, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So, in the matter of adopting development fees on residential and commercial and industrial development to fund the construction or reconstruction of school facilities, resolution number 1920-15. Whereas Education Code section 17620 and Government Code section 65995 authorize the governing board of any school district to levy a fee, charge, dedication, or other form of requirement hereinafter fee or fees in the maximum amounts specified therein against residential, commercial, and industrial development projects occurring within the boundaries of the district hereinafter, quote unquote, development for the purpose of funding the construction or reconstruction of school facilities. And whereas this board has previously resolved to levy fees on development projects pursuant to this authority, and whereas Government Code section 65995 provides that the maximum fees which may be levied on development projects shall be increased in 2000 and every 2 years thereafter according to the adjustment for inflation set forth in the statewide cost index for Class B construction as determined by the State Allocation Board, SAB, to become effective at its January meeting. And whereas the SAB at its January 22nd, 2020 meeting set the maximum fee of $4.08 per square feet for residential development and to a 66 cent per square foot for commercial industrial development. And whereas the new fees are an increase of what is currently being collected by the Washington Unified School District, a copy of the study is attached hereto marked Exhibit A and incorporated herein by this reference. And whereas in the judgment of this board, it is necessary and appropriate and in the best interest of the district and its students to levy fees for the purpose of funding the construction or reconstruction of school facilities necessary to serve the students generated by new development occurring within the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved, ordered, and found by this board as follows. 1. The foregoing recitals are true and correct. 2. The board approves and adopts the study and recommendation of the district superintendent or designee to levy fees in the maximum amounts authorized on new residential, commercial, and industrial developments that occur within the district, and based upon the study and recommendations and upon all other written and oral information presented to this board concerning this matter, makes the following findings. A. The purpose of this is a long resolution. A. The purpose of the fees is to finance the construction and reconstruction of school facilities in order to provide adequate school facilities for the students of the district who will be generated by new residential and commercial industrial development taking place in the district. B. The construction or reconstruction of school facilities is necessary to create updated, adequate, appropriate classroom space and academic support facilities for the following reasons. 1. New residential and commercial and industrial development is projected to occur within the district within the next 5 years, which will generate additional school-aged children. 2. Additional students projected from new development will impact and increase the need of the district to create updated, adequate, appropriate classroom space and academic support facilities. 3. Existing school facilities in the district are in need of or will be in need of reconstruction or modernization. New development will generate students who will attend district schools and be housed in existing facilities. These students cannot be housed without upgrading existing school facilities, ultimately making reconstruction or modernization of such facilities necessary. 4. Both existing students and new students generated by future development occurring within the district will need to be housed and served in existing school facilities, as well as an additional school facilities necessary to serve the projected student population. 5. A commercial and industrial development occurs, new jobs are created. Many of the people hired for those new jobs move into the community, thereby increasing the need for residential development, which generates additional students, adding to the impact on the school facilities of the district. The maximum fee that can be levied against residential development is insufficient to cover the full cost of the new or reconstructed school facilities needed by the district to house students generated from new residential development, and therefore justifies a separate fee against commercial and industrial development in the maximum amount allowed by law. C. Without the addition of new school facilities and or the reconstruction and modernization of existing facilities, the district will be unable to adequately house and serve additional students generated by new development, which will impair or adversely impact the normal functioning of educational programs and services of the district. D, the district has no or limited local revenue resources available for funding the construction or reconstruction of school facilities attributable to new development. E, the fees adopted herein bear a reasonable relationship to the need for and the estimated cost of construction or reconstruction of school facilities attributable to the type of new development on which fees will be imposed. F, the cost of providing for the construction and or reconstruction of school facilities attributable to the type of new development occurring in the district will exceed the revenues reasonably anticipated from fees. Existing students will benefit from the use of developer fees for new school facilities. Conversely, students generated from new development will occupy existing school facilities and will benefit from the use of fees to reconstruct or modernize those facilities. Therefore, it is appropriate to use developer fees for existing facilities to the extent of the estimated use of such facilities by students generated by new development. 3. Based on the foregoing, the board hereby determines A, to levy a fee on any new or on other residential development as described in Education Code Section 17620A occurring within the district in the maximum amount currently authorized by law of $4.08 per square feet of accessible space as such space is defined in Government Code Section 65995B1. B, to levy a fee on categories of new commercial or industrial development as described in Education Code Section 17620A occurring within the boundaries of the district, in the maximum amount currently authorized by law of 66 cents per square foot of chargeable covered and enclosed space as such spaces defined in Government Code Section 65995B2, except for rental self-storage facilities in which a fee is 13 cents per square foot is justified. 4, the fee provisions of this resolution are not exclusive, and this board specifically reserves authority to undertake other or additional methods to finance school facilities in partial or complete substitution for or in conjunction with fee provisions set forth therein as authorized by law. The board reserves the authority in its discretion to substitute the dedication of land or other form of requirement in lieu of fees to be levied pursuant to this resolution. 5, the district intends to utilize fees for new construction of school facilities, reconstruction or modernization of existing facilities, purchase, lease, or lease purchase of portable or relocatable classrooms and related facilities as interim school facilities to house students pending the construction of permanent facilities or the purchase of land for school facilities. This includes all associated costs of plan and execute school facilities projects, including but not limited to architectural and engineering costs, testing and inspection costs, permits and plan checking, and other administrative costs related to the provision of school facilities. Construction, reconstruction, or modernization of school facilities includes, but is not limited to, classrooms and equipment and furnishings for classrooms, and all other reasonable and customary auxiliary, accessory, adjunct, or other supportive facilities for classrooms such as restrooms, gymnasiums, administrative offices, cafeterias, libraries, multi-purpose rooms, maintenance and storage rooms, walkways, overhangs, parking lots, landscaping, and all other similar facilities. Finally, fees may be used for studies and reports necessary to make the findings and determinations required by law for the collection of fees, which may include the school facilities needs analysis described in Government Code Section 65995.6 for reimbursement of administrative costs to collect fees and for such other purposes consistent with the purpose and intent of this resolution, or authorized by law, or deemed necessary or appropriate by this governing board. 6, the superintendent or designee is authorized. I'm only on page 5 of 6. The superintendent or designee is authorized to certify compliance of a particular development project with a fee or other requirement levied by this board, or to certify where appropriate that a project is fully or partially exempt from fees in appropriate circumstances. Any certification of compliance for a particular residential construction project is expressly conditioned and upon the continued satisfaction by that project of the requirements for that certification, and failure to meet those requirements in the future may result in the revocation of such certification and enforcement of the appropriate fee requirement for the project. 7, pursuant to Education Code Section 17621C, This board determines that the fee levied on residential development is not subject to the restrictions set forth in Subdivision A of Government Code Section 66007 and pursuant to Education Code Section 17620B shall be collected at the time of issuance of the building or similar permit required for a particular development project. 8. Pursuant to Government Code Section 66001D, the superintendent or the district's designee shall review the fund established pursuant to this resolution for the 5th fiscal year following the first deposit of fees in the fund, and every 5 years thereafter, and with respect to any portion of a fee remaining unspent 5 or more years after deposit. The superintendent or district's designee shall report to this board, which shall either make the findings required by Section 66001D for said unspent fees, or direct the refund of such fees in the manner provided in 66001E and F. 9. Pursuant to Government Code Section 66001E, the superintendent or designee shall advise this board whenever it appears sufficient fees have been collected to complete financing on incomplete public improvement projects, public improvements that have been identified in this study. This board shall then make a determination whether or not sufficient fees have been collected for a particular project. And when a determination is made by this board that sufficient fees have been collected, the board shall identify within 180 days of the determination an approximate date by which the construction of the public improvement will be commenced, or shall refund the fees as provided in said section unless the provisions of Section 6601F are deemed to apply. The fees adopted herein are effective 60 days after the approval of this resolution unless the school board states that it is an urgency due to the significant needs and impacts of the impending new housing development, and there is a 4/5 majority vote to cause that the imposition of fees shall take effect 30 days after the date of this resolution. 11. The superintendent of the district designee is hereby authorized and directed to do the following. A, as required by Government Code Section 66006A, to establish a separate capital facilities fund, herein, fund, into which the fees received by the district shall be deposited and shall not be commingled with other revenues and funds of the district. The fees and any interest earned thereon shall be expended only for the purpose of funding the construction or reconstruction of school facilities, or such other purposes as are permitted by law and authorized by this board. If applicable, B, if applicable, the negotiate agreements with other school districts with common territorial boundaries, ensuring that the total fees collected by each school district does not exceed the maximum fees allowed by law for residential and commercial and industrial development, and providing for an equitable division of the fees with such other school districts. This, as required by Education Code Section 17623A, copies of such agreements shall be transmitted to the State Allocation Board and shall also be sent to any county or city planning agency which is calculating or collecting fees on behalf of the district. Take such further action as is necessary or appropriate to carry out the purpose of intent of this resolution.
Thank you for your reading of War and Peace.
I move to adopt this resolution. And for those who have the Facebook reading group, perhaps we just post my reading of the resolution to that Facebook group.
I'll second that. And thank you so. I had no idea when I did it.
Yeah. Man, I mean, if there's ever a time for me not to have been double computering it, tonight was it. That's the other reason why I didn't have it, because I usually have 2 or 3 different computers going at the same time, and tonight I only have the one. So, my apologies. That was not my purpose. I promise. Okay, so
I'm such a helper. I always say yes.
Yes, thank you for that.
And Chris knew he was setting me up.
Boy, I owe you a cup of coffee for that one. So we have a motion by Vice President Basati, and I believe it was seconded by Trustee Wong.
It was motion by Trustee Wong and seconded by
you. Okay, perfect. So Vice President Basati.
Aye.
Clerk Kirby Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
Trustee Akala.
Could she read it again?
Bye.
Wow, you have to understand as an English language learner, reading short stories is good. Reading this long thing is terrifying. It's good practice, right? Oh my
Oh
God.
boy.
Okay, I'm glad we can laugh on this board.
Okay.
Continue. Okay.
All right. And I also vote aye. So the resolution is passed.
Thank you, trustees, and thank you.
Oh boy.
Get a glass of water for
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
No kidding. Boy. All
I'm
right.
so glad you beat me to it, Trustee Wong.
Yeah. Me too. Like I said, I apologize for not having it up and available, but then again, I'm not that sorry. All right. Okay. P1. Final read of Administrative Regulation 6182, Opportunity Academy. All right. That was myself and Trustee Wong had the opportunity to go through and had a chance to redefine our Opportunity Academy. And Trustee Wong, if you want, I'll let you go ahead and
After I spent like 10 minutes reading.
that, or but I'll say this.
Yeah,
I think actually I'm glad that we went through this this program and went through this process, because I think now what we have is an actual program that is of true substance and is less likely and has less propensity to be abused and used out of place or out of context of the purpose that of which it is designed to be held. And so actually I'm very proud of the time that was spent on that and the changes and amendments that have been made to the program. And I think now we have a program that I think will benefit a lot of our students who are in need of that additional support.
Yeah. I concur. Actually, the process took a while. I understand that. Thank you for approving the positions before we had the ARs board. But the original AR is very deficit based. I'm very proud of what came out of the policy meeting, and it's much more strength based and aligns with the true intent of what I believe staff is trying to accomplish. Yeah,
and the fact, because what's done is it has a lot more parental involvement, a lot more check-ins. So there's less likely for kids to be able to fall through the cracks as they go through this process. It is now a part of the actual expulsion process. So yeah, and like I said, I think moving forward that way is, I think whether it's this board or another board or any renditions thereof, I think it's the guidelines have been pretty well established, and so I'm happy with the things that have been done on that.
Thank you, President Jackson and Trustee Wong, for all your work and your very thoughtful revisions and comments. Just a little bit of context for the rest of the board and for the public. This administrative regulation 6182 in regards to Washington Unified's Opportunity Academy was written, it was literally written and created for this. California School Boards Association does not have an administrative regulation for opportunity programs, but our main concern is to not repeat the past. Our main concern is that the intensive intervention, specifically for the Opportunity Academy, is provided to the students as a temporary placement, which is the intensive intervention, which had not been in place all these years over at YOLO Center. So I want to thank you for all your work. It was very, very good work. And it is an exemplar for other school districts to use as well. Thank you.
Great. With that, or let me come back over here. Do we have any questions?
I have one. I want to thank you both. It's a great document. It's night and day from what we've seen before. And I think, as Superintendent Luna said, this being exemplar for others, I wonder if sending it to CSBA too, to kind of nudge them to do something like this would be helpful, because I think the wording, everything through it is really good. It's a tier 3 support. I appreciated all that. I only have two things, and one, and it might just be clarification of how I read it. Poor attendance came up as maybe a piece, and I was wondering what that might look like or how people see it, because I questioned if attendance should be in there or not, or so hearing why it's there would be interesting to me. And then the other piece would be, I love the piece behind meeting every 2 weeks with families. If they are not able to meet, is this a contract with them? Is this, that the teacher reaches out, and if they don't come, they don't come, or how does that look? So those are just the two that I was wondering about. But again, huge kudos to both of you and to staff for this. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think staff, Stan or Superintendent Luna, if you want to address the list, if you will, the list that actually isn't, not involuntary, but the voluntary side. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So I'm wondering, Dr. Parsons, do you want to address the item in regards to attendance? Really, what would deem a placement and consideration for poor attendance?
Yes, good evening, Board of Trustees. Opportunity programs in general, by CDE guidelines, does talk about chronic truism, chronic absenteeism. And it's usually because of a social emotional situation that's happening, and so it's a barrier to learning. So that was one of the criteria that CDE outlines for opportunity programs.
The other consideration in terms of extreme truancy is to connect and motivate the student back to school. So being in a smaller environment of 12 students in a classroom, a very intimate relationship of the social emotional curriculum, the Green Light Go project, which is a daily class that will be implemented in the Opportunity Academy, will definitely motivate the student to connect and be in. And that's what we want, is to be able to change that behavior of truancy. And so rather than, so suspension and expulsion of poor attendance doesn't even make sense. And so at this point, it's getting the kid back in school. So that's the part of the intensive intervention. In terms of the meeting every 2 weeks, President Jackson and Trustee Wong, that was such a great suggestion and a great revision from once a month. President Jackson, do you want to talk about where your language came from on that?
Yeah, for me, it was with meetings, if the whole purpose behind it is trying to give, is try to elicit changes in behavior. For me, I felt that the more parents are involved and the more the staff can meet with parents and with the students, it gives them more opportunities to be able to correct behavior and be able to correct issues that may pop up as we kind of go through the process. And because, especially considering that it's such a short-term placement in the program, is designed only to be for one semester, that the more the better. And by having that every meeting every 2 weeks, that gives us, and then there's also the meeting having a meeting, meaning that there'll be a meeting 2 weeks before the end of the program. It gives us those opportunities to be able to kind of to make sure that everything remains on track as we're kind of working through the process. And so that just leaves less of an opportunity to be able for things to get overlooked, or so, whereas if we're meeting just once a month or once every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks, there's a lot that can happen in that period of time. And so for me, I felt it was important to have the more involvement, the better, in my view. Yeah.
And from my perspective, because it's a tier 3, you need that level of intensity and services and supports for families to fulfill the intention of what staff was trying to accomplish.
Thank you. I wasn't questioning the legitimacy of 2 weeks. I think I completely support that. I think it's great. I was wondering if is this a contract that families sign? Is there anything holding them to be there every 2 weeks? Or is this a standing at the school and if they don't come, they don't come? I'm just wondering that part of it in terms of the logistics, but I think it's a great suggestion.
I don't know in terms of implementation. So Dr. Parsons, if you have an idea from your past of any type of contract language in implementing, happy to hear how you might answer Clerk Kirby Gonzalez's question about implementation.
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. That is a great question. That is done during the referral process through our SARB process. And as far as the contract is concerned, there is an individual learning plan that is established during that process. And part of that ILP is that you're going to be meeting with us or contacting with us. It doesn't have to be in person, but the teacher is required to make contact with the parent every 2 weeks. So that's spelled out in the ILP itself during the referral process.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, I think that without getting down into the weeds of it, just letting how the implementation, kind of just leaving that to the folks involved with that, just, with the understanding that, hey, the more chances we have to get in front of each other and communicate with each other, the better. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns on P1? Okay. Well, do I have a motion to approve P1, the final read of Administrative Regulation 6182?
So moved.
So moved by Trustee Alcala. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Pizzotti. Again, all votes are roll call votes. So Vice President Pizzotti.
Aye.
Clerk Kirby Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So action item P1 is approved. P2 is an action item, approval of board meeting calendar for 2020-2021 for regularly scheduled board meetings. Superintendent Luna.
Thank you, President Jackson, Board of Trustees. This evening, we are bringing to the board a regularly scheduled calendar for next school year's board meetings. If you take note, there are exceptions to every Tuesday and every second and fourth Thursday of each month for our board meetings. In the month of July, we generally have one meeting. That's generally due to people being gone on vacation with their families. Under these specific conditions of coming back to school differently, and how every week we have new information about new parameters and new guidelines on how to come back to school under these circumstances, I expect that we would probably have more than one board meeting in July if everybody would be available under the circumstances that we're living in now. The other exceptions are in the month of November due to the Thanksgiving break, and also in the month of December. Now in December, there will be a regular board meeting as well, a second one. It is not highlighted here, but it would be scheduled for December 15th, which is a Tuesday. It is a required meeting for the board to have its reorganization meeting and also the swearing in of new trustees following the November election. We can put that on as a regularly scheduled meeting. The reason why we're not able to do it on December 10th, which is our regular meeting, is because it's required to be done either December 13th or after. So those are the exceptions to the standard second and fourth Thursday of each month.
So just for clarification, Superintendent, you're adding that date to this calendar and adding July 23rd, suggesting to add as regularly scheduled?
What I would suggest would be December 15th, because that would be your reorganization meeting. So if we could add December 15th as a regularly scheduled meeting. In terms of July, it's up to the board if you want to create a regularly scheduled meeting on the 23rd, or if you want to determine whether or not a regularly scheduled meeting is needed, or if you just want to call a special meeting. It's up to the board.
Okay. I would suggest just having it, just because we know we're going to be opening up school 2 weeks
Right.
after, and we're going to have a lot of questions about what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would agree.
So I would like to move to actually add a regular scheduled meeting on the 23rd of July.
I'd second that motion.
And then also December 15th
And
at your
December
organization meeting.
Yes.
And December 15th. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
I make a motion for both. Sorry. Let me clarify my motion. Let me. I don't know. Yeah. I have no oxygen in my brain after reading that long.
Okay. All right. Any other changes to our 2021 regular scheduled board meeting calendars besides those two dates? One being regular scheduled board meeting on July 23rd, and then a regular scheduled board meeting on December 15th for board swearing in and reorganization meeting. Nope. Okay. So we have a motion by Trustee Wong, a second by myself. Vice President Pizzati.
Aye.
Herbert Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. So our board meeting calendar for 2020 with those two additions is approved. Now at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna step out of line for 1 second, because I saw that right after we had left our comments for WSD, I saw that Mr. Buse had joined the call. So Mr. Buse, if you're still on the call and you would like to give your WSTA report at this time, you may do so.
Ruth, is he on mute?
Yeah, he is. Mike, you got to unmute yourself, bud. I don't know.
Does he have to star six?
Yeah.
Maybe you need to tell him.
Yeah. I don't know.
I unmuted him.
Okay.
Mr. Buse?
Ruthie still looks like on my screen, looks like he's still muted.
Yeah, mine too.
Oh. Mr. Buse, can you hear me?
The chat function is still available, is it as well? Maybe Mr. Buse, you can.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
There he is.
Not very technologically advanced. You know, I just want to say that I think that my colleagues have been handling our current situation very well. There's a lot of good instruction going on through Zoom and other programs. You know, it's challenging. From my particular perspective as a kindergarten teacher, you know, we're giving them many opportunities to work on things, and it's a little challenging to keep on top of the program and make sure that they're participating as much as possible. But I think there's a real benefit for those who are who are working on it, and I think that applies to all other grade levels as well. But I must say that teachers are taking it very seriously and doing an excellent job of getting as much instruction in as possible. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's really my only comment. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything.
No, I think we're all good. We appreciate your comments, Mr. Buse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving right along, we will go ahead and move over to board and superintendent comments. Superintendent Luna, would you like to go first tonight?
Thank you, President Jackson and Board of Trustees, staff, and guests. My only comments is that I know that I thank you. I thank Mr. Buse for making his comments. I know that our teachers are working hard. I know that our classified staff are working equally as hard because many of them are on the ground in the public and still serving so many of our families through not just food services, but also at our sites, as we do have staggered staff schedules on site. And so our custodial crew, our maintenance crews, grounds crews, they're all working as well, following up behind us, making all of our environments safe. So that said, it is a very different time now. And be assured that when we come back in the fall, that it will not necessarily look the same as what we remember school to be, but we will have plans in place. I want to also say it with appreciation, the public comment in regards to receiving feedback in regards to how our parents feeling about their distance learning, how our students feeling about their distance learning. But I can tell you, it's going to be varied. It's going to be varied because our teachers and administration, they're also dealing with the same things that we are too. They are also working from home. They are also taking care of their families, and they're trying to figure out this distance learning. What we're doing in distance learning today is not what we would be doing in the fall coming back to school. That I can tell you. What we're doing now is we're trying to make it work. But coming back into a new school year, we have to make sure that when we come back, we have a very clear plan of standards alignment. We have a very clear plan of how we're going to do grades and how we're going to assess our students' learning and progress. So we have our educators, our distance learning task force, and our administration working on that. And these are the people who will be coming together and creating options and plans moving forward into the fall. So I want to thank everybody for all their extra efforts on top of what they're doing for their responsibilities in distance learning. So I think that's just my update for right now. We are going to be talking much more about budget, of course, after receiving the governor's revision today. We have known about some of the projections. So, we will try to schedule a budget session with the board. And the administration has been working on the budget this entire time, knowing that even before COVID-19, there was a slight recession that was predicted to come. It just that it came full force overnight with COVID-19. So with that, I'll stop my comments and thank you, Board of Trustees, for all your work.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Luna. Trustee Akala. No?
Is she on mute?
I don't know. I don't see her. I think this is her right here. Doesn't appear to be so. We can always come back. Trustee Wong, would you like to go ahead?
I'll keep it short. So just really appreciating everybody. I'm sure we're all parents with students here or grandmas with students. I'm hitting a wall. We're all hitting a wall. So I really want to just encourage all of us, staff and board and parents, to give each other a little bit of grace and space. as we live through what the governor called today. It's not just about West Sac. It's not even just about California. It's not even about the nation. It's a global pandemic that everybody is actually experiencing, and we have to remember that. And that is not business, not as usual. And it's okay to be feeling what we're feeling right now. But again, just give ourselves and others grace and space during this time.
Great, thank you for that. Clerk Kerr Gonzalez.
Thank you. I think I want to also acknowledge our students. They are going through what no one else has done, and proving to be very resilient and flexible, and a lot of disappointment for our kids, and a lot of disappointment for our kids that are missing out on big milestones. And I think that as much as we can make these celebrations important for them, and let our kids know that we're thinking about them and that we care about them, and that we acknowledge some of these losses, I think the better. But really proud of them too. So, and our teachers, of course, our classified staff, everyone, very appreciative of what everybody is doing. But of course, as was just said, we can't replicate what we do in the classroom, through a computer or through a paper. Our kids, especially our littlest learners, are working to develop confidence to speak in front of their classmates. They're working on, walking up to the front of the room to ask for something. So many skills that you are not able to replicate in this way. So just a big thanks to everyone for what they're doing and their flexibility. I appreciated the acknowledgement too of hearing, and the parent question earlier about feedback. I think that is important. Even within the same classroom, we know that families are experiencing things so different based on their own experiences at home. And so as the distance learning task force moves forward, I do hope that they're soliciting feedback. I know some schools have been doing that, and teachers have been doing that. And so I think it's important for us, because sometimes, we may think something's going a certain way, but you're not on the other side, and hearing that feedback is always important. And the last piece was, I want to thank and congratulate our staff. It's really exciting when we have positions in the district that are cabinet level, that are district level, that they are being filled with Washington Unified people. And I know there's a lot of great, very qualified people out there. And just a big congratulations, and thank you for representing Washington Unified well. And I know that now we have some holes to fill, and parents and everyone are likely want to have some voice in that too. So looking forward to what's to come. Thank you.
Great. Vice President Posada.
Yeah, I just wanted to also say congratulations to Jay Burns and Yolanda Saka on their, promotions, and we really are grateful for all the hard work you've put in where you've been working. But now you're moving on to some bigger challenges, and we really do think you are very well suited and capable of handling that. So congratulations to you guys. I just wanted to make the comment that this, I don't know if this is distance learning in as much as it's more crisis learning. We're all struggling, and I can only say that with a crack in my voice, because there was tears yesterday. And it wasn't, well, it was my daughter's, but it was also mine. Yesterday was trying. It was a struggle. And I'm sure everybody can understand that. So one of my greatest fears is, for those that have, kids with IEPs and 504s, and I can only speak from the experience that I'm going through. I'm not a teacher. I don't have the experience as to know what is too much work, when is enough. And all I know is this is the assignment put before me. let's get it done. And that doesn't necessarily work for a kid with ADHD or a kid, that has some other issues. And for me, not knowing that and not knowing what's enough has caused strain, and it's caused an emotional breakdown for me and my daughter as well. And so I can only imagine what other families are going through right now. And I can empathize that it's tough. It is absolutely tough. And I hope that we somehow find a way, as Superintendent Luna said, that when we come back next year, if we still have distance learning, that it is, there's a way to educate parents maybe a little bit better on how to do certain things. I needed a tutorial, and I still need a tutorial on this, because prior to doing distance learning, I was doing 20 minutes of homework with my kid. That's it. I don't know what 2.5 hours looks like with, a classroom and teaching my daughter, in that time frame, because not once has it lasted, 2.5 hours. It's been 4 and 5 hours. So that's just way too much. And it's been a struggle. So I can only go by the experience that I'm having. And I just wanted to say that, I know the kids that are in the most need of support they're probably falling further behind. And that's what crushes me. So with that, that's about the end of my comments. The only other thing that I'd like to say is that maybe this should be under future agenda items, but we should be having a conversation about after school care or summer camps that should be going on in our campuses, or may be allowed to come back to our campuses during once school is out. So that's something to consider and put on future agenda items.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. To see if Trustee Aquilar, you're back, if she's back and had any comments. Okay. Well, I will go ahead and go then. And I will say this is that it's funny to hear you say that, Vice President Posada, because I know you're understanding this. You are not alone. You're not the only parent who's going through that. You're not the only parent who feels like that. And it's funny because even in my house, even though I'm the one with the teaching credential and the teacher in the household, my wife has actually taken the lead on it and has done an absolutely fantastic job in terms of doing the distance learnings with our kids. And it's funny because actually I had a conversation with Dr. Bafico about this, and it's in that a lot of parents feel like, well, because it's the sign, it means I have to get done. No, it doesn't. And what I would like to remind parents is that your number one responsibility is to be your child's parent first and foremost. The teaching aspect of it, that's fine. And if there's whatever making up or things like that needs to happen, that will be taken care of. Your kids will be fine. And in a lot of ways, less is more. I think the one thing that we've done a really good job at is we have frequent breaks, lots of breaks. We have explored this area in our neighborhood of West Sacramento like you would not believe. My kids know their neighborhood better than they probably would. It probably would have taken them another 5 years to learn their neighborhood as well as they've gotten to learn their neighborhood in the last 5 weeks. In fact, yeah, I know. In fact, yesterday they were checking out Ruth's backyard as we're going out on one of our walks. When they found out whose backyard it was, I'm like, oh, let's go look. But that's the kind of thing that they've done, and we do that with frequent breaks because it's better for them to get out and to explore and to be kids and let the schooling take care of itself. and you know, the way I like the analogy I like to use is what I did in sports. You take what they give you. If they're only going to give you 10, 15 minutes a pop, take 10, 15 minutes a pop and take a 30-minute break and then come back. But just because something is assigned does not mean that you have to get through everything. You know, we've learned that with our 5-year-old, because her attention span is probably about 10 minutes tops. She gets through two, maybe 3 of her preschool lessons a day, and she's in preschool, and she's already counting down the number of weeks and days until she's on summer break for summer vacation at 5 years old. So the encouraging thing for me is that I think that in a lot of ways this time has been a blessing in some ways, because it's forced our hands to do some things that if were not for this pandemic, that things that we would not have done, in terms of resources for our kids. And it's really forced our hands in a lot of positive ways. And the one thing that I do know is it's also forced our teachers to become better teachers through this process. And so I understand that if we have to come back to something that looks like something like this come the fall, it won't be like this. It will be better, because our teachers are going to be better because of this time that we have now. And we're going to come out on the other side of this as better teachers, as better administrators, and as a district, we're going to be better than what we were going into this. And so that's the encouraging part. The other encouraging part about it is the fact that, you know what, that has given us an opportunity to be able to develop more leaders, and get better and get stronger leadership, not only at the district office, but also at some of our schools, where we've had 2 fantastic school principals who have made the move over to the district office. And while on the surface it appears as though it's a loss for those particular schools, it's a blessing for the district, because now the entire district gets to experience the things that those communities at those particular schools were experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And now they get to be able to use that and to be able to spread that throughout the entire district. And at the same time, it also gives other people in our district a chance to develop their leadership styles. And I'm looking forward to see the work that our new principals at Southport and at Stonegate, and looking at the jobs that they do, because the people that they're replacing, they're filling some big shoes, but I know they're going to do a fantastic job, and I'm very excited for them and for their opportunity as well. So there's some blessings in the storm. And the good thing is that the storm is going to be over, and how we come out of it is completely up to us. And I think we're done a great job of putting ourselves in the position to come out better on the other side. So with that,
President Jackson,
yes.
I apologize.
Hey,
I
there you are.
finally, yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. My phone went out and I had to get an extension for it, technical difficulties. But I just want to say, I agree with you. There are a lot of difficulties everyone's going through, but I think it really challenges our spirit, and it tells us how resilient, our community is. I see posts, from parents, and I hear my own colleagues talking about how difficult it is. My own daughter has children also that are in grade school, and she's been, having a trying time trying to, manage her her work, her household chores, and then, being a teacher as well. But I think it teaches our kids also a lesson in resiliency. We adapt. And, the school model that we have is something that's been with us, from probably the early 1900s. So now we're moving into a new phase. And I think it's important that we do adapt that way. Some of us, like you said, have resources that are available. Others don't. But in the end, we're all going to come together. And I know that, we will continue to, do the best for all our kids in the district. It's great to see how communities come together. We've provided resources, but we've seen, our city and our county providing services that are necessary. So I know we're all very hopeful. My granddaughter, who is in high school, her boyfriend was going to be graduating this year. They were looking forward to prom. And, so there are some disappointments there. And it's unfortunate, but it's sort of a coping lesson also for them, realizing that, things aren't always going to be what we hope for. And they've realized that this is something that they're going into in adulthood, sometimes having to deal with disappointments. So it's a lesson for everyone. And I also look forward to a new school year, when we do have things to look forward to. And I'm just very happy that everyone is pulling together. That's all.
Great. Thank you for that. And with that, we'll go ahead and move down to our future board agenda items. We have R1, policy updates, dress code to be determined. R2, moms demand action presentation requested. That is to be determined. R3, board governance and norms review to be determined. Are there any additional future board agenda items? Vice President Pizzati?
Yeah, basically summer school classes, or summer school and aftercare programs, and what that's going to look like in potentially the summer and going forward as we plan for a new school year.
Okay.
President Jackson,
Yes, ma'am.
just so that the board knows, the after-school care contracts will be coming to the board. We're currently negotiating them with both entities and working with our city and what that looks like for our different programs. So those contracts will be coming to the board, and of course the board will get a review of what this year looked like prior to COVID-19. And as we receive more guidelines of what we're going to be allowed to do coming into the next school year. We will also gladly talk about what our summer programs are that are currently planned for, that have been in the budget, that were approved for this year's budget. So we're certainly happy to do that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And actually, on that same regard, I know that came up earlier at an earlier board meeting, right after, maybe it was in a side conversation about. I know there was some about families being made whole for their for the time they may have had that they may have paid for, like ACEs or whatever.
Oh, I see. Yes, families were. Thank you for that. So any families that that had prepaid in Champions or prepaid YMCA for the month during school closure, it was really for the month of March.
Right.
Both entities, YMCA and Champions, did make whole for the parents.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Clerk Gonzalez, it looked like you had something.
Yes, I think, and it was alluded to, Superintendent Linda brought it up also, and I know we'll probably be having this before our next board meeting, but just so members of the public know, our board budget study session, that we have that planned.
Yeah. Okay. Trustee Wong, you have anything? Okay. And actually, one thing I would like to go ahead and put on the agenda is, I think in complete agreement with Dr. Early West, is we could put distance learning on the next agenda. That would be great too. If nothing else, just to kind of as background and feedback of kind of where we are in the process, considering we have about 3 weeks left in the school year. And so that way it gives people an opportunity to be able to make public comments about their thought, and they can give us their thoughts on how things are going and things like that. I think that I don't think we can start that discussion too soon at all. And then also kind of gives us maybe to be able to start to turn the wheels a little bit of what would we look like if we have to come back into the split day model. Is just completely asinine. I don't know. They just need to. Sometimes not saying anything is better, but whereas I think something like an A/B schedule, like Superintendent Luna and I had talked about earlier I think it was last week. It was something that would probably make more sense to have an A/B schedule where maybe half the kids come on Monday, Wednesday, Friday 1 week. The half comes on Tuesday, Thursday, and then they alternate something like that, so we can kind of start that process and getting feedback. Because and honestly, if something like that happens, that's going to take a lot of coordination with our families to make sure that something like that we're able to pull that off if that's something that we have to do as well. So if we can put that on the distance learning on the agenda, that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be great if we could maybe hear from the distance learning task force and all the work that they've been doing. We send the communications out to all staff for common messaging and unified messages with our distance learning task force, and they've been doing a lot of work. So it'd be nice for them to come to the board and we can hear from them directly. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, and that goes hand in hand with the after school care programs, because they have to mesh with that. So that was exactly the reason why I was thinking that. Good.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. If there's nothing further, Trustee Alcala, did you have anything for future board agenda items?
Well, I was just gonna back up on that also. I know that billions in federal monies are available for early childhood education programs. So I know Sacramento has told me they've set up a lot of programs at the schools, and then there are a lot of mom and pop shops that are taking advantage of this money. Have we done anything in terms of maybe applying for those monies?
We'll definitely provide the board an update on the federal dollars in regards to early childhood education and funding.
Okay.
All right. Okay. With that, do I have a next is adjournment? Do I have?
I move to close.
So moved by Trustee Wong, seconded by Clerk Kirby Gonzalez. Vice President Prezati.
Aye.
Clerk Kirby Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
I also vote aye. This meeting is hereby adjourned. Everyone, please make sure that in your calls.
Thank you, everyone.
Next meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.